If you've ever been cut off in a meeting and thought, I wasn't finished, this episode is for you. Because most people don't get interrupted because their idea isn't good. They get interrupted because they haven't said the most important part yet. And in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you how to make your point land in under 30 seconds without talking more. And this is something that I've been seeing show up with my clients again and again recently, which is why I knew I had to have a podcast episode about this. But before I jump in, I just want to take a moment and acknowledge something. I've noticed that my listening audience is starting to shift, and I love it. More and more of you who are listening are in corporate roles. You're ambitious. You want that very next level promotion. And you know that showing up as a confident leader and a clear communicator is exactly what is going to move the needle so that you get positioned for that next big promotion. So if you're in meetings, boardrooms, or leadership conversations thinking, I know my ideas are solid, I just need them to land better, then this episode is very much for you. And I also want to speak directly to the coaches, the consultants, and the business owners who've been listening for a long time. This still applies to you. So whether you are on a sales call, having a client call, you're on a podcast interview, you're doing a workshop, a keynote, confidence and clarity is how you communicate. And it is the skill that cuts across every industry. So if you hear me talking about meetings or boardrooms, just swap it out for the room that you are in. Because at the end of the day, this isn't about corporate or entrepreneurship type speaking. It's about showing up as somebody who can communicate with confidence. And that is a skill that we all need, no matter what we do. As you move up in an organization, communication changes. Not because people are impatient, but because decisions are expensive. And so a lot of what I'm going to talk about today comes from my leadership development days. So I'm really blending the two of these together, speaking, communication with leadership development. Leaders are constantly asking themselves three questions. And I would hear this from the executives that I would work with. Why does this matter? Why now? And what do you want me to do? And if you don't answer these questions quickly, they're going to interrupt you. And it's not to be rude, but it is to move the conversation, move the meeting forward. I know personally that when I'm running group calls, if somebody is giving me a lot of background story, I will say something that pushes them a little bit forward because a lot of times I'm I'm thinking in respect of everybody else that is in this group call. We don't need a whole lot of background story, like get to the problem. Bottom line, your question. And that's exactly what you might be experiencing. And they may not say it in words, but I want you to be looking at people's body language. Have you said a little too much? Too much background information, too much that ends up watering down what you're actually trying to say. So before you speak in a meeting, I want you to prepare, especially if you know ahead of time that you are going to be presenting something. And I call this the 30-second clarity test. And if you can't answer these three questions in under 30 seconds, the room's not going to follow you either. So think about these. The first question is, what problem does this solve? Not what you worked on, not the process that you took. We don't need to talk about the backstory or the experiment, the actual problem. Bottom line, the problem. Look at it as you are putting a flashlight on the problem. And if you're one of my clients, you've heard me talk about like theater. In the theater, they will point the lights over on one section of the stage, and over on the opposite side of the stage, they are changing the scene. They are getting the audience to focus over here. Here's what I want you to pay attention to. So I want you to think of the exact same thing. You are pointing a flashlight. What is the problem? We want to be brief. We want to bottom line what the problem is. The second question is, why does this matter now? Timing. Risk? Is there opportunity? Why does this deserve airtime right here, right now? That's the other question that you need to answer. And the third question is, What decisions or actions are you asking for? Do you need approval on something? Do you need some direction? Do you need some resources? What decision or action are you actually asking for? Don't make the audience guess. You've probably heard me say over and over again that when you tell a story, we never assume the audience knows what the lesson is. We tell the audience, here's what I want you to get from this story. And I want you to do the exact same thing here. Remember, clarity isn't about dumbing things down. It's about doing the thinking before you speak. And that is something that you absolutely can train for. Now, these 3 questions that I just shared with you, what's the problem? Why does this matter now? And what decision or action are you asking for? Now, if you're asking a question or sharing in a meeting that you weren't planning on speaking, being able to answer these 3 questions may not always apply, but can you bottom line your answer? Can you bottom line your question that you are asking at the meeting? These are things that we can actually train for. And I'll give you some tips and ideas on how to train for this later. But first, I want to actually give you something since this is an audio podcast. I want to give you something that you can hear the difference. So I'm going to tell you a story. We're going to do a before and then we're going to do an after. So here's the before, and this is totally made up. So I just want to give you some background on what we've been seeing over the past couple of months. After the last rollout, we pulled some data and we noticed a few inconsistencies depending on the region. Originally, this wasn't scoped to include customer support, but then we realized probably it should be. And anyways, we've been having some internal conversations, and I think there might be an opportunity to make some adjustments. Are you still with me? That's a little boring, wasn't it? I mean, it didn't say anything, but it's just not clear. You hear that, and you're just you get lost in what? So what's the problem? What do you want me to do? Is there an opportunity here versus this? And this is shorter and this is more concise. We're seeing delays in onboarding because our current process breaks down between sales and support. If we don't address it this quarter, we're likely going to see some higher churn in quarter 3. I'm recommending that we align the teams now, and I'm asking for approval to pilot the fix in one of the regions that we're seeing the biggest dip. Now, I realize, even as I say this, even as I share these stories, and yes, I did write them out first, my before, I can even feel like my body's is my body language is different. My voice is different compared to the after, but you can hear the clarity. You can hear the difference in my voice. And I'm the same person, but completely different sounding pieces of information. And granted, they're stories. So you tell me, which one would you like to be speaking like, the before or the second one that had lots of clarity? And I'm pretty sure that you're probably picking the clarity one. So I just want you to take a moment and think about, notice what was different. Notice how you responded personally. Were you leaning in with the first one or were you leaning in with the second one? Were you questioning, what is she even saying with that first one versus, oh, I get it with the second one? Notice with yourself, because your awareness, as I've always said, is half the battle. Then I want you to tie it right back. What was the problem? Why now? What's the ask? Because that's what leadership is asking themselves also. Remember, decisions can be expensive. And here's what I've noticed in the clients that I work with who train themselves to be clearer. Clarity creates confidence. Confidence also creates clarity. And people don't remember the most detailed person in the room. They remember the clearest. One of the things I'm thinking of right now is elevator pitches. And how some people, when they give an elevator pitch, They would go on and on and on, and it's like, I don't need you to tell me everything that's on the menu. Just give me a reason to open the menu. Give me a reason to read the story, to take that next step. Clarity creates confidence. Clarity in the person who is listening, like they know exactly what to do. They know what problem you solve. They know how you do it, and they know what you're asking. I mean, like those 3 questions that work so beautifully for an elevator pitch also. So how can you start using this immediately? Before your next meeting, I want you to do this. I want you to look at those 3 questions. Write out the point in 1 sentence. Say it out loud. Does it take longer than 30 seconds? This is how you train yourself to use less words. Even myself, like I write content that's on LinkedIn, that's on social media. I write emails to my list. And once I write them, I'm going back and I'm rereading things and thinking, what words can I take out? You can do the same thing. Here's another great idea. When you leave voice messages, and if you have the opportunity to either send an email or pick up the phone, let's start picking up the phone more. And if you leave a voicemail, I want you to listen to it. There is a way for you to hit one of the buttons and it will say, do you want to listen to your message again? Listen to your message. Listen to how you sound. Listen to the words that you chose. Were you being clear? Were you being brief? What extra words could you actually take out? Let's just learn from what we're already doing. Because when we re-listen to those voicemail messages, we get better at the next one. And this exercise actually comes from a woman that I used to work for when I worked in Siemens. And she gave me some feedback about my voicemail messages. And then I started re-listening to them. Re-listening to the message that I was leaving before I hit send, before I hung up the phone. And there were times that I re-recorded 4, 5, 6 times until I was happy with the way that it sounded. Now, I don't do that as much anymore because I have changed. I trained myself to be brief and more welcoming. That was one of the things. I wasn't as welcoming and engaging and friendly over the phone when I was leaving a message. So those are 2 different exercises that you can do. The big thing that I want you to understand that is that clarity is a leadership skill. And this skill you can train for, this skill you can practice and you can get better at. And the more that you get better at this, people are going to notice in meetings. And wouldn't it be nice, instead of taking an hour to get something done, all these meetings that are on your calendar, wouldn't it be nice if you could get them done in half the time? What would you do with that extra time? If you've ever walked out of a meeting thinking, like I had such a great point and it just didn't land well, or maybe you didn't even share it. In that case, it is a confidence issue. If it's the first one, it's a clarity issue. And remember, we can train for clarity. And if you want help tightening up how your ideas land so that you're heard, taken more seriously, and seen as a leader instead of just a contributor, I want to invite you to book a call with me. During that call, we will look at how you're currently showing up in meetings or presentations, where your message is getting muddy, and what to change so that your ideas carry more weight without working harder or talking more. You can book a call through the link that is down below in the show notes. And if this episode helped you, I want you to send it to somebody who needs to hear it before their next big meeting. So until next week, I want you to be in demand.